Hey guys, the Godic here. We're gonna do my own testing series on this channel. I'm gonna go around testing the best top range cars in each class. I might go down to bottom range cars if I have more time, but to start off with, we're gonna do bottom range cars to start off with, or top range cars. I want to do my own testing videos because I don't think Brofies goes in depth onto different types of tracks. It's great testing. I'm not dissing him in any way. His testing is very great, thorough, in depth. But I want to do something a bit more different. I'm going to be doing the first series. The first series is going to be on this track, Davis Avenue. Um, it has a lot of flowing corners instead of the hard corners that are on Cutting Corners GP. Or Cutting Corners, yeah, Cutting Corners GP. A lot of flowing corners. That will change the testing around because there's not a lot of braking or cars get a lot of momentum from braking. So, yeah. I mean, this is as of December 24th, 2016. So, it's probably go up on December 25th, 2016. Or 25th, 2016, so Christmas. So, hope you guys enjoy that. Merry Christmas. But yeah, um, everything is done to the best of my ability. I've done a bunch of laps on this. I've done at least 20 laps on each car, and so I've done hundreds of laps on this track. So my testing is pretty accurate. I try to do very similar laps for every car. So let's get right into it with number 14, which is the Entity XF. This car has a lap time of 113.240. This car really suffers from this track. This track has a very long main straight, and the Entity has very great acceleration and not very great top speed, which um, causes it to not get so much of a boost from this track because there's not many hard corners for it to accelerate out of and get that bonus that it usually does on a track like, let's say, Cutting Corners. Um, it's a very good car. It's not very far off the pace. All the cars are within 3 seconds of each other on this track, so take that as you will. All of them are very balanced, but this kind of track, the Entity XF does suffer quite a bit. Number 13, we got the Reaper with the 113.074. This car, again, is like the Entity. It doesn't have great top speed, but it has very great acceleration. It does suffer on this track because it's not very top speed oriented, but it does get a quite quicker lap time than the Entity XF. Um, it's a pretty great car. It was not too hard to get the lap time. Um, I got it on my first session, the best lap time, and I couldn't beat the time after that. I just couldn't put together a better lap. So take that as you will. It's a pretty fun car to drive. It's different, so it's very small and very agile, so it's very nice for contact racing. At number 12, we got the Turismo R with the 112.974. This car was very hard to get the lap time for. It was very hard. Track is very bumpy, so it's hard to not oversteer and fuck up a lap. So it's a nice car to drive in a contact scenario where most everybody else is driving the Turismo R. It was very hard to pull off a good lap with this car. And I race the Turismo R every week with the Grand Turismo World Championship, so it's a nice car to drive. I enjoy driving it in a contact scenario, but in terms of sheer pace, it's not on pace with the top couple cars. The X80 Proto, this one's a very interesting one. This this was the most difficult car I had to do with my testing. It did not like this track one bit. This car really gets its benefit from accelerating fast at corners. This car needs braking in order to get that quick lap time. This track has a lot of main straights and flowing corners, so this car it's very hard to get a lap time off of, and the bumps really screwed up. Usually I do two bumps and I go out in front of that, but I couldn't because there's a bump right there and it wouldn't let me do it. Yeah, so that's a very bad car to drive. The Penetrator. Penetrator is very interesting. It's a 112.57, so it's better than the X80 Proto, which is very interesting. I thought that the X80 Proto would be faster, but on this track the Penetrator is faster. Don't buy the X80 Proto. It's so much money, and it's very use case scenario is very limited. If you enjoy driving it, go ahead buy it, but its use case is very limited. But the Penetrator, it's a pretty good fun car. It's one of the best values for money, but the best value for money is going to come up very soon. But this is a fun car to drive for the money. So next car we're going to drive is the Tyrus. The Tyrus gets number 9 on this thing with the 112.274. Um, the race cars have fallen off their pace, really. They used to be the best cars to use in the game, top 3 by a long shot. Ever since the downforce got changed and they don't get a downforce and spoiler, they just get downforce, they lose a lot of their time. And they fall into these ninth and so on positions. It's a small car. It's interesting to drive. It's very expensive. I would not recommend buying it. But yeah, that's a Tyrus for you. Then we got the FMJ with a 112, 106. This car does really well on this kind of track with a lot of long straights and flowing corners. That's where the FMJ really gets it, because the FMJ is terrible out of first, second, and third gear. But once you get that fourth gear, man, this car flies like a mother effer. The top speed on this thing is wicked, and the way it goes through the flowing corners, it has about the same top speed as the X80 Proto, but this does a lot better over flowing corners, and it builds up speed a lot better than the X80 Proto, and that's what gets it to get this 112, 106. So it's quite interesting. Yeah, it's a fun car to drive. It's difficult to drive in a contact scenario though. ETR1 with a 112.040, again falling from his position of number two a couple months back when the downforce and spoiler thing was still around. It was very easy to get this lap time. I got this lap time on my first run with this car. It's a very easy lap time, and I was getting consistent 112.040, so that might be a seller to get the ETR one. It's quite boring to drive, really. It does all the work for you. I don't like it anymore. It does all the work for you, and it's just not that fun anymore. But if you want to go get it, it's 1.9, so it's not too expensive. So now, next car is the Zentorno with the 111.8. I was expecting this car to do a bit better, but this car, it tends to snap a bit easy more than, like, let's say the other cars in the class. It snaps very easily. The tail end, there's a lot of power in the back end, and yeah, it takes the bumps really really well. Like it gets the bumps really good. There's not a crazy ton of bumps like curb boosting, like wicked curb boosting opportunities. So that's why this car doesn't do as great as, let's say, something like a T20 or Osiris, which is coming up next. T20 with a 111.705. It does way better in those flowing corners than the Zentorno. If the Zentorno did a bit better in the flowing corners, it would beat the T20 on this track. But yeah, and these cars I did a bit more testing on than just the regular 20 laps ish that I do for each car. I did about 50 each just to make sure that it was accurate. So it's about as accurate as 50 laps per car, so 150 laps per these three cars. T20 is a very nice car to drive. I would still recommend buying one, but it's still pretty expensive. So yeah. But on this track, the Osiris is actually faster by... These cars are within 0.2 seconds of each other, so basically just choose whatever driving style you prefer. It really does not make much difference at the end of the day. The Osiris comes in with a 111.673. It's just very stable. It's such... Like, the T20 sometimes gets faster laps, but the Osiris will keep consistent with those laps, man. This car is such an easy car to drive, and it's very fun in a contact racing scenario, and it's one of my favorites, to be fair. I quite like it. It's a bit on the more expensive side, but yeah. So the Nero Custom is with a 111.572, give or take a little bit, minusing the regular Nero because I didn't test the regular Nero because I don't have enough money to buy one. But it's not that much slower than this, but it is a bit slower because it doesn't have an engine. This car is the most fun car to drive. It's my favorite car in the Supers class right now to drive. I'm gonna make a video about the Nero Custom, but this car is such a fun car to drive. The driving style is just so smooth. The top speed is great, and around the flowing corners, this thing is fucking beautiful. And that's what gets it to the third position, which is pretty good for this car. It's a bit on the expensive side, but what are you gonna do? It's a fun car to drive. I enjoy it. The Tempesta is arguably the best value for money with a 111.272. It's a $1.3 million supercar, and it feels like an RE7B pre downforce spoiler patch. It's a very fast car. It has a lot of traction, and it goes super fast. The braking's not the best in the world, but it's still salvageable. And the traction that it has, the speed it can go through corners, is just ridiculous. It's a really fast car, but you know who it's gonna be at number one. We all know it. It's the RE7B. It's a 110.305. It beats everything in the class by a second. It's very fast. I wish it wasn't the best in the class, man. I really wish it wasn't the best in the class. But the super class is relatively balanced. This car, nothing much to say about it. It has a lot of, it goes fast around corners, and it's just really quick. But the supers class is within 3 seconds of each other within the competable supers. I didn't test the lower end supers because it just wasn't worth my time as of now. But There's a 3 second difference between the best and the worst supercar in the or like in the competable range. That's 14 cars within 3 seconds of each other. And that all depends on track. I'm going to do some more testing on different tracks and I'll bring that videos to you guys at a later date. Not today. But these cars are very quick and they're all within 3 seconds of each other. So basically, it really just depends on your personal preference at the end of the day. I use these to quantify the speed that the difference that flowing corners can have versus hard braking corners, as in some other people's testing. But this right here, the super class is a very well balanced class, and you can use pretty much anything you want. And as long as you know how to drive it well, you'll be competitive. Um, it's a fun class, lots of different options to choose from depending on your price range, your preferences, your looks, whatever you want to do. So, yeah, I'm gonna do some more testing videos. I'm gonna edit this right now. Leave this like a like. Yeah, if you know, subscribe for more GTA 5 racing content. I'll see you guys next video. Cheers.